Welcome to the Pinoy Nurse Podcast, showcasing inspiring stories of Filipino nurses worldwide. My name is Dion Candelaria, and I'm your host for this episode. Today, I'm very excited to open this podcast series with our first guest, and it's our pleasure to have Miss Louie Horne BEM, and we'll find out what BEM stands for later on. Um, Louie Horne is the first Filipino nurse to join the NHS England team as the Workforce Race Equality Standard Clinical Research Fellow with a focus on international staff. She is also a Deputy Associate Director of Nursing at East Suffolk and North Essex NHS Foundation Trust, SNEFT, and she is the chair of the Ethnic Minority Group Staff Network, Embrace at SNEFT. She was recognized for her major contributions to patients and the nursing profession and received the Silver Chief Nursing Officer Award from Dame Ruth May in 2021. She was a finalist in the BEM Nurse of the Year category at the National BEM Health and Care Awards in 2022, and she was listed as one of HSJ's 50 most influential Black, Asian, and minority ethnic people in health, the Rising Stars 2022. In addition, Ms. Horn is a Prince 2 practitioner, a qualified mental health first aider, and an RCNI editorial advisory board member. Outside her role, she is an active officer of the Filipino Nurses Association UK, and she is also a leading member of the Filipino Senior Nurses Alliance UK. And I think this is the biggest one, Louis. She received the Medal of the Order of the British Empire in 2023 for her services to nursing. Welcome to the episode, Louis.
Oh, thank you for that, Dion. And thank you very much for inviting me. This is a great podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So, just by looking at that, you've had such an inspiring journey from bedside to national leadership. I want to know what was one big moment or challenge that really shaped who you are today, as a Filipino nurse in the UK.
Gosh, there's so many challenges. But when I arrived in UK, that's 25 years ago. I was full of hope,
Mhm.
and I wasn't prepared. I was in my 20s, lots of uncertainties, and I was culture shocked
Right.
because it's very different now. Before 25 years ago, I was the first in my place
Mhm.
as the black-haired one,
Mhm.
and as a bedside nurse, it taught me a lot of resilience. I have to adapt a lot to a lot of things, to the colloquialism.
Mhm.
There are words that I didn't understand before because we don't use it in the Philippines, and a lot of empathy. I used to look after old patients with no one visiting them. So one of the major challenge was there was no senior nurse who looked like me. So
Mhm.
I thought that that was the very first that I noticed. And there's covert discrimination early in my career, different kinds of discrimination. But if I always believe in the saying that if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So I
Mhm.
chose to
Mhm.
rise by advocating for change,
Yep.
not just for myself, but for all the international nurses. But I think my breakthrough moment for me was when I was the first Filipino to work for RES, which is Workforce Race Equality Standard at NHS England.
Mhm.
And finally, I thought the representation that I'm asking for, I was in the right table and I was seated in the
Yes.
right uh, place to talk about representation, to talk about equity, to talk about equality, and being mentored by the Chief Nursing Officer of England is something I learned so much from Dame Ruth May. So it's a long way of saying it.
No, wow. That's it's very inspiring, and I think listening to you, I could relate, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners could relate and probably had similar experiences. Um, and I guess that leads to my next question because you've worked hard to support international and ethnic minority staff in the NHS, and I guess basing it on your own experiences, it's become your advocacy to kind of make sure that representation, it matters, that there is, you have a voice in the deciding table and things like that. And you've also mentioned that things have changed since your time. But what changes have you seen over the years? And I think what still needs to improve to make things fairer for everyone.
Yes, you have to notice those changes as well
Mm,
because we can't keep on talking about the same thing, racism, discrimination. So in
mm,
the last 25 years, there's so much change in a way that every majority of the nationality now of each international nurse, they have a association. So
mhm.
pre-pandemic, there's about six international nurses association, but after the pandemic, there's now 44.
Oh my God.
So yeah, any nationality, name it, there is a association that supports them. And these associations are pro bono, as you know,
Voluntary work and
it's all voluntary work.
mm,
But it, increased visibility of ethnic minority leaders is there.
mhm,
You can
mhm.
see it. Oh, I recently went to the Florence Nightingale commemoration event, and and years ago you wouldn't see minority people there, but there was about nearly 50 there on the last one. So
Okay.
it's great. So I think we should improve on more open conversations about inclusion
Mhm,
and psychological safety. We always say it, but actually there are still lots of international, especially Filipino nurses who can't speak what they really want to say and
yeah.
still scared. So lots of international stuff still feel undervalued despite their, contributions. And I think, Dion, it's a systemic change.
Mhm.
It's not one person's job. It's actually a system. Uh, we can only do that by doing our own bit.
Yeah.
One that thing that we can influence, for example, career progression.
Mhm.
So as a chair of the Filipino Senior Nurses Alliance, we aim to increase career progression through mentorship. So we're going to
That's
launch a mentorship
fantastic. Yeah.
nationwide. Yeah. And equitable access to training,
Mhm,
because as international nurses, we're given the mandatory training, but we're not given those leadership trainings that will make us
mhm.
better. And of course, representation at senior levels. So F, all the platforms that we have, FSNA, PNA, FNA UK, is a platform for lifting other Filipino nurses to be seen and heard. And my work at
Absolutely.
NHS England, I really focus on turning data into a lived experience improvements. So we can't just keep on talking about it. We need to look at actual
I
steps. Yeah.
absolutely agree, and that's one of the things that we're trying to achieve here at within the Find network as well. I just want to pick on one of the things that you said about uh hesitancy, I guess, in speaking up, or us not being comfortable in speaking up, and that is in many ways cultural related because that's who we are as a people. Um, how can we, I guess, empower uh Filipino nurses to be comfortable with not confrontation as such, but with speaking up and being heard when it doesn't come natural to us.
Mm.
I guess there needs to be some training there as well.
Yes, because it's embedded in us to be submissive, to
Mm,
be, I mean, it's different now. I see a
mhm.
lot of Gen Zs I look after a lot of international nurses, even Filipinos now. And when they come to the UK, I do the induction. And I'm so proud that they're so assertive. They know what they want, but
Good.
still, there are still high percentage who
Yeah.
doesn't speak up. And
Hmm.
Dion, it's because it's connected to their visa. They feel that if they say something, yes, they still believe
Ah,
that.
right.
They still
Okay.
believe that if they say something,
It
it will
could get
affect
them
their
in
visa.
trouble.
It
Yeah.
could get them in trouble. There will be no one to champion them. So those
Right.
are the things. And generally, some people are just really, really shy. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
they need to have a champion.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
some are they see it and they think that there's nothing will be happening anyway if they say. They're just
Those
having
passive ones. Yeah.
repercussions. Yes.
Yeah.
Say, oh, they will just tell me off if I
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
something. So they just go on and tolerate these things. And
Hmm.
sadly, they come to me when there's compilation of notes that they
Mm,
supposedly do, and they are part of disciplinary. That's when they come to me,
mhm.
which is sad because by that time, there's so many that I can question. Why did they do this to you? What did you
Yeah,
say? They didn't say
yeah,
anything. Example, ward round. They're not
mm,
looking at eye level.
yeah. Eye contact.
They keeping their head down. Eye contact. If you come deep parts of the Philippines, eye contact is still disrespect in a way,
Yeah, yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
In our culture. So
Hmm.
some of the things that I saw in the disciplinary was you did a drug error because when I was telling you the you didn't look at me, you were just looking down. You're ignoring me. Whereas to her, she
Mm.
can't look at him in the eye because he is a doctor. So those are just one of the examples.
Right. And wow. Okay. And I think having you or your group to 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 pave the way, or at least to tell them that there is there are people who you can talk to and ask for advice. I think that that's great. Um. Okay. So let's talk about your Medal of Order of the British Empire. I'm very intrigued by this. This is an amazing honor. Uh. So how did you feel when you got it, and what do you hope, it means for other Filipino nurses watching your journey?
It was when I got the award because even now, Dion, I don't know who nominated me. Even to this
Oh,
day. Yes,
right.
yes. Apparently, you're not supposed to know.
Okay.
But it's a good thing because otherwise, I'll be inclined to pay for Starbucks for that person for the rest of his or her life. So
Or
I'm
Costa
happy.
or something.
But it joking. Yeah, I know, yeah. So it was deeply emotional, not just for me. And I feel that it's for every Filipino nurse who quietly gives their all day
Hmm.
after day, and majority often without recognition. And this honor isn't just about a moment during the pandemic. It represents, I feel, years of dedication, advocating for nurses. Even
Hmm.
as when I was a very junior nurse, I already advocated for nurses and supporting international nurses, not just Filipinos, and in the
Hmm.
UK. And it's it's also a commendation of my clinical service for the enduring work to uplift others
Hmm.
and mentoring others. I think in my 25 years, I probably mentored about 100 and I mentored as well other nationalities like
Wow.
nurses from India. I mentored someone from Nigeria as well. And you have to empower others and
Hmm.
making space for especially for Filipinos because we're known to be really shy. We are so hardworking. We've got great work ethic, and just for us to be heard and valued is enough for me. So I
Hmm.
think the hope that I have, well, if I can be seen, then everyone can be seen, and it's a proof of excellence that wherever you come from, you have to not just because sometimes we like awards, don't we, as Filipino? But I think it's the sustained service and advocacy that truly matters to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we were, I mean, before the recording, we were chatting about the real impactful work is very important, isn't it? And I guess for you, like I mean, I'm from the other side of the world, but we're definitely inspired by your journey and your passion with advocacy work. Which then leads me to my next question. How do you manage your time and what keeps you motivated with all of these advocacy work? You're in a senior nursing position, and your networks. What motivates you?
Lots of things motivates me. Well, first things first is I'm very anchored in my purpose. When
Hmm.
I came here, my why my capital Y is crystal clear. I want child. I apparently used to fight. I've got four other siblings, so there's five in the family. And apparently, when I come from a very humble beginnings, and apparently, the fish, the famous fish in the Philippines, galunggong.
Yeah.
So when we have one fish each, I would ask why my eldest brother has the biggest fish. So I was
Oh,
five then. So
wow.
I was
At
five.
an
So
early age, you're after equity and
equity, parity, and of course, visibility and justice. It is
yeah.
very strong in me,
Uh-huh.
and the well-being of nurses. So it's a cliche, but I always get motivated as well if I save even one or two
Yeah.
Filipinos from losing their job, which
Mm-hmm.
was one of my advocacies. I represent them in disciplinaries
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
Filipinos don't pay the union fee, you see. Majority of our Filipinos are
Ah,
not members of
of the
nursing
right.
unions.
Okay.
So sometimes they call me because there's no representation, there's no one to do their statements.
Ah,
So if I can save one Filipino at a time, it gives me that energy. There's still some, Dion, who's being or still being bullied here at work.
like
And
unfairly
I do a lot of
treated in terms of
outreach. Yes. Yes.
ah,
And I do a lot of outreach because London, when you're in London, you're heard because it's very London centric sometimes,
mm,
the NHS. But I did a lot of outreach in the last 5 years to raise awareness of the data. What data do
yeah,
we have?
yeah,
I want to empower them to say that there's 50,000 of us here, so you're not
mm-hmm,
alone, and
mm-hmm,
try and give them tools and resources by making these Filipino senior nurses so that those senior nurses can mentor other nurses. So if they're victims of discrimination and other unsavory things,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I'm quite strategic as well. We discussed it earlier on. I get a lot of invitations from different events, but I am strategic in a way that if it's going to be impactful in the message that I'm going to be giving,
Yeah,
parity, equity,
mm-hmm.
representation, I go there. But if it's just for some sort of limelight, I normally decline. So, we have to be rooted in our value. And I've never, ever forgotten where I came from. So that
That's
keeps
beautiful,
me
isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
grounded.
It's always the why that pushes you forward, and we can, I mean, I can feel the passion of your why, which is very, very inspiring. Um, so now I want to ask you, as someone who's deeply involved in the Filipino community in the UK, or Filipino nursing community in the UK, you've touched on this earlier a little bit, but what do you think are the biggest strengths that we bring? And what support do we still need, I guess, as a community?
We need to focus on our strengths. So
Mm,
the strength of a Filipino all over, we always have that resilience.
mhm.
If others are worried about the 5 long days, it doesn't matter to us. I used to do 7 long days as a nurse in the
Yeah,
Philippines,
yeah, yeah.
and that comes with a commute of 2 hours before and 2 hours after because of the traffic. So we need to remember that resilience because I hear young Gen Zs to say, "Ate, I'm so tired." I said, "Oh, what happened?" "Oh, I did 3 long days," and I was like, "Whoa." Do you remember? It's always coming back to our roots.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
our resilience is number one. We have great compassion. We
Mhm.
treat our patients like relatives.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a friend who in London who started a headache clinic in London from UCLH, Susie.
Mm.
I mean, she was the cover of a nursing standard. I think you should get her as well at some point, Dion.
Oh,
So we've got
I'll
clinical,
reach out.
yeah, and Tuti, she's the first
Yeah.
doctor. She's got the first PhD. So
Yeah.
we've got clinical excellence as well. It's making sure that all those talents go out. And how
Mhm.
do we do it? We have to have a structured mentorship. We have to
Mhm.
have leadership development. And we ourselves, if others will do it, if the system won't do it, then our group should do it. I mean,
Yeah.
like defined.
Yeah.
The culture in the UK before is they see Filipinos as numbers, but
Mhm.
we're changed that. Now they're seeing us as talent. So let's move from being a silent service to empowered voice. and it should be a care with influence, not just social media influence.
Amen to that. I so agree. No, really, we as a Filipino, and this is what I've been kind of banging on as well, is w- Filipino nurses are great, talented, and we should see them in every leadership position there is in terms of nursing. And I'm very glad that you're working in that area, and I'm very inspired by your work. Um, Now we're towards the end of the podcast. I'm having a great time chatting with you, but um, this is one question that uh, I'll be asking all of our guests in this podcast. So then later on we can have I guess, a greatest hits of of advice. What is one piece of advice or wisdom you'd like to share with Filipino nurses around the world?
Oh my gosh, it's just one? I've got tons, but I'll make it quick. So I always tell my alaga, and there's lots of them,
Mhm,
never forget the reason why you went abroad as a nurse.
mhm,
Always find out your why, and don't be distracted by the noise around you. There's so much noise around you. Know your worth, own that space if you have it, and never apologize for being excellent. We need to be part of the new breed of Filipinos, united, empowered, and globally respected. And we have to embrace the positive, because we know we're known as well for other traits that are not very positive. um the old mindset of
mhm.
Filipinos,
Yep,
or
yep,
pulling others down and
yep.
stepping on others. We need to focus on what unites us, rather than what's makes us all distracted and not together. And even in the UK, there's lots of in Guy St. Thomas, for example, they've got thousands of Filipinos, but some of them don't even know each other.
Mm, mm.
Yes, so know your why and stick to that.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love the never apologize for being excellent.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take that. That
yeah.
is really good. So that's all we have. Thank you so much, Louis, for your time and energy and for sharing your journey, your inspiring stories, but most importantly, for the work that you do to help the Filipino nurses in the UK and help the Filipino community, I guess, in general, through advocacy and mentorship. It is really, really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you for having me.
thank you. So, yeah, stay tuned for more inspiring stories here at the Pinoy Nurse podcast. And again, this has been Dion Candelaria. Thank you and goodbye.